Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
So glad to have you with us for this special edition of the Three Martini Lunch. We expect this episode to run on Good Friday, unless there are other circumstances that intervene. So if that is the case, then we're running on Good Friday. We wish you all a blessed Easter. He has risen on Sunday, of course. And one of the other things that, of course, happens at this time of year is spring cleaning. After winter, you kind of go through your closets, your basement, your attic, whatever, and decide, you know what, don't really need that anymore. Or I'd really like to get rid of that. I can't wait to get rid of that. So today we're going to be taking a look at three things each that we would like to get rid of. It could be an idea, it could be a policy, could be people. Not actually eliminating them, of course, permanently, but, just removing them from office if we don't think they're doing a good job. And so if you're familiar with our year-end awards, you kind of know how this format will work. I will go first this time, actually, which is a little bit different than usual. And then we'll kind of ping pong back and forth till we each have three different things that, or people that we would like to get rid of. But before we do that, I need to tell you about Fast Growing Trees. Did you know Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the United States with thousands of different plants and more than 2 million happy customers? The Columbus family are among those 2 million happy customers. We've gotten the big plants, the monstera, the fig. We've gotten the spicy plants, the basil, the oregano, the parsley. We've had the lemon tree. We're looking forward to our snake plant. And so whatever we've gotten from Fast Growing Trees, we've been very, very satisfied with. And you will too, because they've got a wide selection of plants, easy online ordering, quick delivery, expert support, landscaping advice, and of course, their amazing Alive and Thrive guarantee. So this spring, get up to 50% off select plants at fastgrowingtrees.com/martini. Plus, you can use the code Martini at checkout for an extra 15% off your first purchase. Visit fastgrowingtrees.com/martini and use the code Martini. Now's the perfect time to plant. Offer valid for a limited time. Terms do apply. fastgrowingtrees.com/martini. All right, Jim, let's go ahead and get to it here in our spring cleaning special. As I said, I will go first, and I'm going to start on the economic side. And Jim, when you buy a giant flat screen TV, what would you say if the store said, after you bought it, paid the taxes, took it home, you need to keep paying us a little bit every year or we're going to take it away from you? Or I know you remodeled your kitchen recently and you probably got some new appliances, and the store where you got those appliances said, yeah, great, thanks so much for your business. We're going to keep asking you to pay us or we're going to take them back. Well, that's what happens with property taxes. Property taxes are the worst tax. They are a regressive tax. They're an unfair tax. You have bought this thing. So therefore, you own this thing, and the government shouldn't keep charging you for it. Ron DeSantis has talked about this quite a bit recently. You're basically paying rent. Do I own this? Or will you take it away if I don't pay? That doesn't sound like ownership to me. And in Virginia, on top of housing, we've got this horrible personal property tax on cars that you potentially bought a couple of decades ago, and they still are charging you a percentage of that. Jim Gilmore tried to get rid of it. He got rid of some of it, but it still lingers. Glenn Youngkin tried to at least reduce it, if not get rid of it. But the Democratic legislature, of course, said no to that because they love the money too much. Bob McDonnell, as governor, kicked up our rates for the personal property tax to pay for his transportation boondoggle that he promised wouldn't happen. So, Jim, I mean, I'm not a fan of taxes at all, but property taxes are completely unfair because if you don't have a job, this bill all of a sudden becomes really, really bad. So I don't know exactly how it got started, but it needs to go away because if you own it, and the government should keep its hands off.
Greg, that is an excellent choice. When you began with the description of purchasing the flat screen TV and there were just endless charges that would continue in perpetuity, I thought you were going to segue into Nate Bargatze's routine about how it is to purchase anything these days, where you just want, hi, I'd like to buy this shirt. Are you a part of our rewards program? No, I really just figured I'd give you money and I would walk away with the shirt and we could just end the No, what we have to do is we have to enroll you. Hang on, I need your email, I need your phone number, I need, no, I just want to do capitalism, trade. How about, no. All right, so my first selection for spring cleaning of 2025 is a name we haven't heard for, I think, almost the entire year. Matt Gaetz. Remember him? You probably choose not to, but it was kind of fascinating. This guy went from Trump's pick to be attorney general, which everybody's like, oh my God, can you see what this guy's going to do? So, this frightening, terrifying, the powers, the abuses, all the scandals associated with him. Greg, it's like he was put in the witness protection program. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Wait, he got a contract with Newsmax, which is pretty much the same thing. Basically, you just disappear once you end up with some of these lesser-known cable channels. No, but so he was a guy who had, all kinds of scandals. He got rid of McCarthy with no backup plan, and there was that paralyzation in the House of Representatives for a long stretch. Now, if from the very beginning they said we're going to replace him with Mike Johnson, that would have been a much more supportable plan. I think Johnson's actually done a pretty good job as Speaker so far, but yeah, Matt Gaetz, he's been tossed out and just basically disappeared, and that's just the way I like it. There was a little bit. You heard his name when people talked about his replacement in the special election in Florida, and other than that, we haven't heard from him. That's the way it ought to be. First batch of spring cleaning of 2025 out the door by the curb.
All right, I think I see two different strategies here: things I want to see go away, and things that actually have gone away. So that's
oh no, the other ones are more in that keeping. So stick with it.
Well, very, very good. Yeah, I've heard that Matt Gaetz now has a podcast.
Who'd want to have a podcast?
We're certainly grateful for those who sponsor the podcast, including Hillsdale College, which, of course, I'm a graduate of, proudly so. And one of the things I learned at Hillsdale was the basics of economics, which you might not learn in a lot of other schools. In fact, one of the reasons I know that property taxes are a terrible idea comes from my understanding of how economics work at Hillsdale College, incentives, choice, basic supply and demand in terms of how economics works. But I've got some really good news for you. I didn't get that education for free, but you can. Right now, Hillsdale College recently launched a new course called Understanding Capitalism. And in 7 online lectures, you'll learn about the role of profit and loss, how human nature plays a role in our economic system, why capitalism depends on private property rights, the rule of law, and above all, freedom, and, which the left definitely doesn't want you to know, why capitalism is ultimately a system that encourages morality rather than undermines it. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/martini to enroll in this course, Understanding Capitalism. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/martini to enroll for free. All right, Jim, on to our second one. And for that, I go to teachers' unions. This has been a major problem for a very long time as it relates to curriculum, certainly as it related to COVID policy, the backpedaling and spin and gaslighting coming now from Randy Weingarten at the American Federation of Teachers, and the NEA saying, oh, no, we were the ones trying to get kids back into school. No, you weren't. Not at all. I remember that the Chicago Teachers Association had that infamous tweet about that, returning to school right now is rooted in racism and misogyny and so forth. The LA teachers didn't want to go back to work until there was Medicaid for all and all sorts of other liberal policies. So these unions have, I don't know if they've radicalized the vast majority of teachers, but they've radicalized enough that it has become a problem. It's one of the reasons you see all these clips from all these different sites where teachers are trying to indoctrinate their kids about gender identity stuff and critical race theory back in the day, DEI now. And so teachers' unions have been a massive net negative, and they're a huge gobble up of the money. The huge stimulus bill that Biden passed, which basically triggered the massive inflation that we saw in 2021 and 2022. A huge bit of that was just giveaway to a bunch of union allies and others as a result of this emergency. Corey DeAngelis, who is a big supporter of school choice. You see him tweeting a lot whenever there's a state debate on school choice. He's usually pretty prominent in speaking out about it, but he highlights this chart that comes from the Digest of Education Statistics from the National Center for Education Statistics. And since the year 2000, it looked at the growth of administrative staff, principals, teachers, and students in public schools. Since 2000, up until looks like 2023 anyway, the number of students grew by 5%. The number of teachers grew by 10%. The number of principals and assistant principals grew by 39%. And the number of administrative staff grew by 95%. So when you keep talking about the per student number, if all these schools, and you got to spend more money on the schools, well, that money's not actually going to the students. It's going to pay for a lot more people staffing the place. And as we can see from DC and from Baltimore and from all sorts of different cities around the country, and not just big cities, but small cities too, more money does not equal better test results. It does not equal better students. And the teachers unions have been a big part of directing what the curriculum shows and where the money goes. And it's been a big fat failure. And so now that they're squawking about Trump's efforts to basically shutter the Department of Education, makes me think he's probably on the right track.
I was going to say, Greg, even if the teachers' unions are not in a trash bin by the curb where we'd like to see them, they are significantly weakened than they were, say, a year ago or even 5 years ago when basically they were dictating school policies on COVID and things like that. So that's a big step in the right direction. I think that's kind of a good parallel to my second choice, significantly weakened but not gone yet. In that case, my second nominee for spring cleaning is New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Not gone, kind of the old saying, gone but not forgotten. It's the inverse. He's forgotten, but he's not gone. He is still the mayor for the next couple of months. People probably recall that the Department of Justice dropped the charges again. Oh, sorry. Traditionally, when I introduce Eric Adams, I say the mayor of New York City, who's brought to you by Turkish Airlines. And everywhere else by Turkish Airlines as well because of the bribery allegations that we're never going to see a day in court because the Department of Justice dropped the charges, but it appears the damage has very much been done. As of early last month, not only was things looking bad, his approval rating is 20%. He had not held any campaign events. He has no campaign manager. He's not doing any campaign manager. And the petition process has been moving very slowly. So all of these things that you traditionally do when you're a mayor and you want to run for re-election, he doesn't have anymore. Now, part of this is because a whole bunch of people resigned his staff when all of these allegations came out. But I think I was thinking about, because I was at the Democratic Convention in Chicago last year, and I saw Bill de Blasio. And I wanted to throw something at him, but I didn't. But I was just thinking about like Bill de Blasio. I was like, wow, Bill de Blasio. I haven't heard that name, and I haven't thought about the guy in like probably 1 or 2 years. When you're a mayor of New York City and you leave office, and particularly when you leave office with the city in as lousy shape as Bill de Blasio did, nobody's clamoring for you to run for governor or run for senator or run for any other. Like, you just kind of disappear. And I think kind of sadly, the same thing's going to happen to Eric Adams. When he went into office, he was a former cop. There was this perception that he was going to be tougher on crime, that he was going to be not the most leftward option for New York City. And he really hasn't done that. Crime has gotten better in the last few months. A lot of people are crediting that to the commissioner. It's been a long, slow, scandal-ridden slog for New York City since the pandemic. And I think that de Blasio did not leave him a city in good shape, but we have not seen the rebound that a lot of people wanted to see. And I think a lot of people, that may have just been the triumph of hope over experience, or just attributing more toughness to Adams than he really had because of his past as a cop, etc. Either way, a deeply disappointing mayoralship, and I think soon Eric Adams will be out of here, and he will not be widely remembered or discussed as a great mayor of New York City.
Yeah, well, I think one of his big problems was he pretty much strayed left until he ran out of money and space to take care of the illegals that had been shipped to New York City. And so only at that point did he start to push back. He was a major disappointment on law and order from that aspect, and how he kind of flip-flopped all over the place on immigration, to now butting up with the Trump administration, which hopefully there is a ton of cooperation up there. I hope that is the case. But yeah, this is a guy who's been a significant disappointment. I don't know how high my hopes were for him coming in. I knew he was better than a lot of the other options running for mayor in 2021. But the fact that he not only is pretty much a failed mayor, that failure is going to lead to probably an even worse mayor, whether it's Cuomo or Mamdani and whoever else is potentially running there. So there's the tentacles of failure running from de Blasio to Adams, and potentially well into the future is not encouraging. You know what else is not encouraging, though? Spending a lot of money that you don't have to spend for your business. And there's a growing expense eating into your company's profits. It's your cloud computing bill. You may have gotten a good deal to start, but now the spending is sky high and it's increasing every year. But what if you could cut your cloud bill in half and improve performance at the same time? Well, if you act by May 31st, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure can help you do just that. Here's what you need to know about OCI. The savings are real. On average, OCI costs 50% less for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. You can join Modal, Skydance Animation, and today's innovative AI tech companies who upgraded to OCI and saved money. Plus, OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, and it offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing. This offer ends, though, May 31st, only for U.S. customers with a minimum financial commitment. See if you qualify for half off at oracle.com/martini. That's oracle.com/martini.
The argument of Wall Street versus Main Street is a pile of nonsense. The Watchdog on Wall Street podcast with Chris Markowski. Every day, Chris helps unpack the connection between politics and the economy and how it affects your wallet. The stock market was all over the place due to the expected tariffs. And guess what? Wall Street still made money. Mom and pop stores weren't even affected. Whether it's happening in D.C. or down on Wall Street, it's affecting you financially. Be informed. Check out the Watchdog on Wall Street podcast with Chris Markowski on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast.
All right, Jim, on to the final thing that I want to get rid of here in spring cleaning, and this one's definitely more lighthearted. There's a lot of things much more serious that I'd like to get rid of, like abortion or something like that. But to end on the lighthearted note, certain commercials drive me crazy. And now my girls are old enough that we can make fun of them and mock them. The first, of course, being prescription drugs, where, you know, if you got dry skin, you take this thing, your life is great, you're holding hands, you're playing volleyball, you're on the beach. Oh, your liver might explode. You could have sudden death.
Side effects may include suicidal impulses, you know, but
yes.
But at that point, your skin will look terrific, you know.
That's right. So, little proportion here, people, on some of these things. And they also just do it so matter-of-factly. You know, it's just, we got to get through this laundry list. It's required by law. Yes, all your internal organs could fail. Yes, you're going to be thinking about harming yourself in perpetuity, but your elbows won't be dry. Yeah. And then, you know, other ones that we constantly see, especially if you follow sports a lot, the gambling site ads, the FanDuel and the DraftKings, and everything's related to gambling now. There's also some that are the CBD products. So having your young children ask you, well, what's this product that people are talking about? Thanks so much for accepting those ads and running those. All I have to say is it's drugs. They're bad. Don't do that. And then the other one that's become nauseating over time is the whole body deodorant, which, you know, where they have to list the different places to use the deodorant. Yes. I thought this was implied or understood from a very young age, but no, they have to get very graphic about that, which is insane. So I'm all about free speech, but I would have no trouble banning all these things.
Greg, as I may have mentioned on this podcast once or twice, when I'm not covering politics, I generally don't want to listen to politics. So I listen to a lot of sports talk radio. And sports talk radio, for a long stretch, you know, when my two guys were a little bit younger, they do a lot of, guys, are you not getting it done in the bedroom? Well, okay, let's change that. That's not you know, we don't need to hear the male enhancement, you know, little blue pill friends. It was bad enough when Bob Dole was doing it. But now apparently it's all over and it comes in chewable form. Anyway, there's a lot more information than I ever wanted to know. So my last option for spring cleaning, kind of a recurring theme on this. So you might say, oh, it doesn't really mean that it's gone. So we have, you know, at least as of this recording, one major book is either out or on the way out. Fight Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House by Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnes. Jake Tapper is writing on the shocking news that Joe Biden was really old and decrepit and geriatric. And I just wish Jake Tapper had been in some position where he could have written about that or reported on that during the Biden presidency. But now it can be told, right? You know. But so my spring cleaning, you notice since Inauguration Day, we haven't seen Joe Biden much at all. He did a recorded video for the Democratic National Committee's winter meeting. And after I'd written that he had done no public events, somebody corrected me. He did appear at the Model United Nations High School Conference in New York City. The media coverage of that was zero. The only evidence that he was there was a Facebook post by the organization. Now, the reason there was no media covering Biden's first public remarks since he left the presidency is because his team didn't want anyone there. Right? If they put out an announcement, everybody would have, you know, at least sent one reporter just to see if he fell off the stage or something like that. Biden did not fall off the stage. People said that he sounded fine, and I think good. God bless him, good for him. But as these books are coming out and saying that Joe Biden couldn't complete the practice sessions for the debates and that he had to stop and he fell asleep by the pool while he was supposed to be preparing for the debates and all, like you'd think if Joe Biden really is sharp as a tack, remember that? Sharp as a tack. Karine Jean-Pierre has got so much energy. Karine Jean-Pierre can't keep up with him. Speaking of those pharmaceutical ads, Karine Jean-Pierre should see a doctor if she can't keep up with Joe Biden. Joe Biden has not come out and done any televised interviews to refute these accusations. He has not done any, he hasn't given any remarks. He hasn't made any public appearances. He hasn't spoke up on Stephen Colbert's show. He hasn't done Kimmel, Meet the Press. He never did Meet the Press while he was president. But we haven't seen him at all. So part of the things that are going out with spring cleaning are apparently former President Biden. I since Inauguration Day, I semi-seriously wondered, is that the last time we ever see Joe Biden? And I hope the man lives to be 100. I hope he enjoys good health. But the fact that we're not seeing him, he's writing an autobiography, wink, wink, memoirs, but it's being ghostwritten. But apparently he'll tell some rambling stories that the, ghostwriter has to turn into a cohesive text. And that'll be his side of the story. And he'll say that he was sharp as a tack to the very end and all that stuff. But what's going out in spring 2025? Joe Biden and his presidency. They've ended and they're disappearing. And my guess is that much like Matt Gaetz and Eric Adams, a couple months from now, we'll be saying, Joe who?
Maybe they can all start a podcast together. That might be slightly interesting. But
man, that'd be kind of good. I'd like to listen to that. Listen here, dog-eared pony soldier. Yeah. Corn Pop is a bad dude.
And the other thing is that, Biden couldn't defend himself after he was trying to explain it was just a bad night at the debate. Every time he tried to do an interview, it only got worse. So for him to come out now after he hasn't been at least sort of on the job for a few months, I'm sure he's not any sharper than he was. So to try and refute these rumors by showing up publicly would not go well.
It was one of those things where we kept hearing about how behind the scenes he was so great. And, almost all of us were like, but if he's really that good, why does it disappear when the cameras show up? You'd think at some point somebody could get out a camera phone, and as he's laying out the Pythagorean theorem and laying out the history of the Crimean Peninsula in all of these brilliant discourses, somebody would record them. And by the way, Biden wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer back when he was in his 40s and 50s and 60s. Never mind when he was 80. Yeah. But and that's a lingering. I think the consequences of that are going to be quite severe for the Democratic Party. And, one of the other reasons I think it's going to be such a wild, open field for 2028 is that Biden did not officially designate a successor beyond Kamala Harris, and now both of them are such severely damaged goods that I think not only is neither one of them going to be king, the nominee, so to speak, neither one's going to be kingmaker. Nobody really cares who they endorse or who they support. Yeah,
I think that's probably right. And you're right. He was very glib for many years, but not particularly bright.
I bet I have a much higher IQ than you do.
Yeah.
Just ask my Secretary of Defense, the black man. By the way, that's not me putting words in his mouth. That's what he actually said in an interview with Black Entertainment Television.
That's right. And he also pulled out the IQ card when he was trying to refute the plagiarism charges way back in 1988 because he challenged the reporter to an IQ contest, and then it was everything he said in that press conference was proven to be false.
To his credit, he plagiarized somebody smart. So he plagiarized his life story. How do you yeah. So
in any event, Jim, happy Easter to you. Safe travels, and we'll see you on Monday.
Happy Easter, happy Passover, happy whatever you celebrate at this time of year. Everybody have a good spring, and I'll be back pretty soon.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks so much for being with us today. Please be sure to subscribe to the 3 Martini Lunch if you don't already. Tell your friends about us as well. Thanks also for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please keep those coming. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. Follow us both on X. He's at Jim Garrity. I'm at Greg Corombos. Have a terrific Easter. He is risen. See you Monday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.